All right, everybody, it is time to get started. My name is Rachel Taylor. I'm the director of NCLEX here at Archer Review. And today we're going to be going through one of my absolute favorite topics, which is test anxiety. Test anxiety is a topic that's really important to me because I was a student that significantly struggled with this through nursing school. I'm actually getting my master's in nursing education now, just about to finish up. And guess what? I still have test anxiety, despite talking about it all the time, despite helping students overcome it. It's something that I still struggle with. And so this topic is so important to me. I think the more we talk about it, the more you guys as students can overcome it. From an educator's perspective, helping students with this earlier helps students be more successful throughout their nursing school programs and on their NCLEX. So I'm super excited to have you all joining so that we can really touch on this important topic. So I want to start off just by talking a little bit about test anxiety, because why we're covering this is this can be overlooked, but it's one of the really powerful topics when it comes to test prep. And whether you're preparing for the NCLEX for the first time, or maybe you've attempted before, you're not alone. Test anxiety happens, not always to everyone. It can be at different degrees, but every year, thousands of nursing students struggle with test anxiety. Several thousand nursing students, I should say, struggle with confidence. And the problem with test anxiety is it can really cloud your thinking. It can drain your energy, and it can rob you of the opportunity to reach your goals. But the good news is you don't have to do it that way. So today we're going to name the problem. We're going to understand what's happening in the brain, the body, and we're going to make sure we have strong steps to go forward to tackle and overcome this test anxiety together. So I want to know where you all are joining me from. So we're going to open up a Slido poll. If you grab your mobile device, you can scan this QR code, and I want you to type in the code, which is test anxiety. You can go to slido.com as well if that QR code isn't scanning for you. So go ahead, join, and I'm going to launch our first poll, which is, where are you joining from? I love to ask this question. And the reason why I love to ask this so much is because there is one thing that connects all of us that are joining here. Do you know what it is? It's nursing. And I think it is the most beautiful thing that I'm in South Dakota and we have people joining from San Diego, from Canada, from New Jersey, from Texas, from the Philippines, from Jamaica, from Arizona and South Carolina and Kentucky and Wisconsin. It's amazing to me. And so I love asking this question because we're all here for one united reason, and that's nursing. So that we can either help students who are trying to become nurses, or we can help, as an educator perspective, or you are the student trying to become a nurse, or you're going to be that student that's trying to become a nurse. So I'm super excited to have you all here. We've got people joining from Missouri as well. That's where I started as a nurse educator. Shout out to you. Always cool to see people from there. But I'm curious, and you guys can also just put this in the comments on the social you're joining in. Who struggles with test anxiety? And I know sometimes we're like, ooh, I'm a little embarrassed to say that's me. We're not here to judge. We're here to support. And so feel free to say, yes, that's me. You can raise your hand on Zoom. You can put it in a comment on TikTok. I'll say that's me. I got a 40% on my first test in nursing school. A 40%. I almost quit. Do you know why I got a 40% test anxiety? It took over my mind. I didn't know how to deal with it. I absolutely failed. I called my mom that day. I cried. I said, I'm not meant to be a nurse. I'm not smart enough to do this. I'm not capable of doing this. And my mom was like, you absolutely are, but you need to be intentional. And so I started being intentional. And let me tell you, it changed my entire education. And so I want to help you today of how do we not get rid of the test anxiety, because that's not going to happen, but how do we overcome it? How do we take ownership of it so that we can be successful despite the anxiety that may happen? And you're right, it can be cloud judgment. Now, some of you are like, hey, I used to not have it, but now NCLEX is just another level. And I totally understand that because there's a lot of stressors that can come with the NCLEX specifically. And several of you are saying that that's the case, is you hadn't experienced it before, but now you're experiencing it because of the NCLEX. When I think of test anxiety, this is what I think of. I live in South Dakota, kind of by, you guys know where Mount Rushmore is, I'm kind of by there, and we like to hike in the Black Hills. So how I think of test anxiety is I'm going to go on a long hike and I get my backpack on, but all of the causes of test anxiety are like these big rocks that keep getting placed in this backpack. So I want you to imagine just a couple things. Give me just 1 second here. There we go. I want you just to imagine a few different things here. Maybe the fear of failure is a cause for test anxiety. Maybe it is that your family is just on you. Rachel, when are you going to pass this test? I thought you graduated weeks ago. Maybe it is that you have perfectionism. Anyone relate to that? I know that's a big issue for me. I have this need for perfectionism with myself. Maybe it's that your job told you get one shot. And if you don't get it the first time, that job offer goes away. There are all these different things. Maybe your family financially needs you to pass this test so that you can make it from month to month, right? It looks different for everybody, but at the end of the day, it's this performance stressor, and the stress, it gets so high that we get to this point of now we can't critically think. Has anyone ever felt when you're taking a test of, I need to get out of this test? I can't take it. I need to get out of this exam. Or maybe you've been like, oh my goodness, I feel frozen in this moment. If you've experienced those feelings, it is because you are in your fight, flight, or freeze. You're in your fight, your flight, or your freeze. And so that's really what we want to be thinking about, okay? Are we in that fight, flight, or freeze? Now, this is really common in nursing school, but where I actually see it pop up the most is on the NCLEX. And I think the reason why I see it more on the NCLEX is because people assume that it's a higher pressure. But my thing is, if you've made it through nursing school, if you've made it to this point, you can do the NCLEX, you can do it, but it's all about our confidence, our mindset, all of that matters. So without needing to put your name in this next bullet here on Slido, what causes your test anxiety? So I shared with you guys, mine is a perfectionism issue. I also have a fear of failure. And what I have found personally is we have this fear of failure. It can hold you back from your greatest success, because if I'm always afraid of trying, I'll never try. And it's all about trying. It's all about making mistakes and learning from them. A lot of you are saying fear of failure. A lot of you are saying low confidence. Absolutely. I personally see that those that have lower confidence, typically their anxiety levels are higher. Not always, but it's pretty frequent that I see that. I've worked with thousands and thousands of students. And some of you are like, it's been a while. It's been several years. And so what we do is we say, it's not going to happen for me. Or maybe we say, oh, what happens if I'm unsuccessful? But what if we change that mindset today? What if we change how we talk to ourselves about our NCLEX, about our exams? What if we change it from, I'm afraid to fail, of, wow, imagine what happens when I pass? Or I don't know if I'm smart enough to do this, to I'm going to keep trying until I get there because I know I'm capable, even if it takes hard work. Even if I get it wrong some of the time, I'm going to keep trying. Or maybe it's, my family needs this. What if I can't do it for them? But what if you shift that to, my family needs this, I'm going to do it for them. I am going to reach this goal. When we change the mindset on how we think about our test, it can change the outcome. And the reason I say this is I have seen it time and time again. How you think of it matters. And some of you are saying, what if I disappoint others? Or I failed sometimes in nursing school, or I'm an international nurse. Some people have additional barriers. I am not denying that. Some people have more barriers than others, but you can overcome them. And that's what Archer Review is here for. We want to help support you in those so you can overcome those barriers, so you can reach that goal. When I was in nursing school, I had a kid, right? Our nursing school always joked there's always one person that has a baby in every class. That was me. And I almost quit nursing school again. I had several moments where I doubted my capability of becoming a nurse. And I said, how in the world am I going to become a nurse as I'm trying to become a mom? I was terrified of that, right? How was I going to do both? Could I do both? Could I do them well? And what I had to do was I had to sacrifice. I had to spend a lot of time working on time management. And it was hard. It was super hard. But I know that each of you that are joining are capable of doing that. And it can feel like that weight gets heavy. Like I told you guys, we're getting that backpack, we're getting ready to hike, and all those things you just mentioned, you just put a big rock in that backpack I'm trying to carry. And that load, it gets so heavy that I'm not going to be able to walk up that mountain, that hill. They're not really mountains, so I'm going to call them hills. Those hills, right? That hike is going to be too challenging. We have to lighten the load. So how do we lighten this load? Well, it starts with making sure the rocks don't ever get in that backpack to start with. If you are someone who has test anxiety, I don't expect it to go away for you. What I do expect is that you learn to control it, that you learn to take charge of it. So when I get anxious, you guys can probably see my face is a little red. My face gets red, like the color of this lip gloss, kind of red, okay? My face gets really red. I get really sweaty and I talk super fast. If you guys would have watched me lecture 3 years ago when I first started for Archer, I was talking really fast at this speed because I was anxious. I was nervous. Now I feel so comfortable doing this. It's not as bad, right? But it made me speed up. Some people slow way down, other people speed way up when they're nervous. But we can prevent this by adequately studying and reviewing. At Archer Review, I recommend the Sure Pass package. Follow the 6-week plan for first-time test takers, the 12-week plan for repeat test takers, get 4 highs or very highs consecutively on readiness assessments, and go pass your NCLEX. Because if you've met that criteria, you, along with the other 99% of students that have met that criteria, have passed their NCLEX exam. And what happens is we learn to fuel our confidence instead of fueling our self-doubt. And that's the beauty in this. Do you know you get to decide? You get to choose if you are going to fuel your confidence or fuel your self-doubt. You get to choose. You have to be intentional. You have to be thoughtful of it every single day. But when you choose to fuel your confidence, let me tell you, there's no limit to what you can accomplish in your careers. So decide today that, hey, I'm going to stop fueling that self-doubt. I'm going to stop on that area and I'm going to drive toward confidence. I'm going to drive toward success. And it's not a false confidence. You are putting the work in. You are being consistent. That all matters. Make sure you know too what exam day is going to look like, because you want to be ready for, how long does it take you to drive there? Are there other things that you need to consider for exam day, like caffeine intake? I'm a big coffee lover. People who know me know my life gets a whole lot better when I have a cup of coffee in my hand. I have a little bit of a problem with coffee. I just really love it. So if it were me and I'm taking my NCLEX, I don't want to try a new type of coffee day of my exam. I don't want to drink over 200 milligrams because caffeine can increase anxiety levels. We want to make sure that we're thoughtful of what we do on exam day and we get a routine leading up to exam day. Now, what are your earliest indicators of test anxiety? Someone said easily frustrated. I can relate to that. I have had before where I'm working and I can't figure something out and I'm like, oh man, I'm getting frustrated. Sometimes I have to take a second, right? I have to take a deep breath and I have to move on. And Casey Maria just said on TikTok, just passed my NCLEX last week. Thanks, Archer. Amazing. Amazing. Someone else said manifesting RN in 2025. Totally agree. Now, someone said cramming. I do not want you to cram for the NCLEX. Cramming maybe worked in nursing school. I'm guilty of cramming. I have done it. Don't wait to the last minute. Do today what you can do today. Be consistent. Procrastination is one of the biggest things I have seen. So I'm going to tell you something. When I first started recording videos for Archer, I procrastinated on it. I procrastinated. Why? Because it stressed me out. It took me time to learn a new skill. Don't let yourself procrastinate on this, because the longer you procrastinate, guess what happens as that due date comes closer, test date comes closer, that anxiety, it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds until your anxiety is so high that you can no longer critically think. Now, I want you to consider how you combat test anxiety. In the comments, just give me a yes, a no, a raise your hand, whatever. When you have test anxiety, do you feel that society has taught us that we should just push through it? What do you guys think? Do you feel like society has taught us, oh, just push through it, it's going to be fine? Yeah, a lot of people tell me yes. Every time I ask this question, I see a lot of people saying yes. What's the problem with this? When it builds and it builds and it builds, we're now in our fight or flight. And once we get to our fight or flight, you know what we can no longer do? We can no longer critically think. We have to get to the root of the problem and we need to address it there. If we stop it early, we never build and get to that fight or flight. We can keep it manageable. But if we don't be thoughtful and intentional about it, it's going to be up here before you even know it. So we're going to build today our test anxiety toolkit of just some really simple tricks and tips for when that test anxiety sneaks in. And I'm curious, I want to know, up to this point, have you just pushed through your test anxiety or have you paused to address? I'm going to be honest, when I was in school, I used to always push through it. I used to say, oh, it's going to be fine. There's not another option, but there is. There is another option here. So we're going to discuss it today. And I think it's so important. Somebody asked, how often do we go live? We do free webinars every Monday, Wednesday, Friday right now. And then we go live on TikTok Monday through Friday. So TikTok's really the good place to catch us because we're there a little bit more often. Okay. So pretty much most of you are saying push through, but some of you are saying pause. And so let's go ahead. Let's talk about what this pause will look like. But before we talk about it, I do want to introduce one topic to you. It's our 3-day live NCLEX review. We have a 3-day live NCLEX review next week. And then after the one next week, our next one is July 9th, 10th, and 11th. If you're like, Rachel, I'm struggling. I don't know how to be consistent in my prep. I don't know how to prep for this NCLEX exam. I need a little help. Archer Review has our Sure Pass package. That is going to include the 3-day live NCLEX review. That would be my recommendation, would be to follow our 6 or 12-week plan. Attend this 3-day live review. It gives you everything you need. It is comprehensive. And because you're joining today, I have a code for our Sure Pass package. It won't work on this 3-day NCLEX review only. But for our Sure Pass package, if you use I Love Archer in all caps, you are going to get 10% off that Sure Pass package. So if you need something to help you be consistent, to help you show up, to know what to do every day, to take the guesswork out of it, the Sure Pass package is the one that I would recommend. All right, so how do we combat this test anxiety? Well, it starts with positive self-talk. I want you to ask yourself for a moment, how do you talk to yourself? Do you talk to yourself saying, I am capable, I'm powerful, I'm smart? Or do you talk to yourself of, wow, I can't believe I missed that, I'm an idiot. Wow, I cannot believe I can't figure this out. I'm never going to be a nurse. How are you phrasing your mindset today? Because when we step into that positive self-talk, it fuels confidence. It fuels success. And so we want to step into that positive self-talk. I want you to start talking to yourself how you would talk to your best friend. How would you talk to your parent, to your child, to your best friend, to your sibling? I think you'd be a lot nicer to them sometimes than you may be to yourself. I don't know what it is about society at least in the US, I know I struggle with this and I've met a lot of students that do. We just get negative with ourselves. But let's change that today. Let's intentionally say, I'm going to stop that and I'm going to make sure I rephrase it into a positive light. And it gives you a different perspective on the entire process of prepping for this exam. The next thing I want us to do is deep breathing. When we take a deep breath, there's lots of different ways to do it, but I'm just going to look silly. I'm going to show you how I do it. When I get really anxious, I can't count. So one of the great ways to do it is to count. You count for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. I can't do that. I don't know why. So what I do instead is I just close my eyes. I take a nice big deep breath in. I hold it and then I exhale. I'm going to do it one more time in through my nose. Hold it and exhale. And I want you guys to try it once. What it does is it actually puts pressure on our vagus nerve. And when we put pressure on the vagus nerve, it removes us from our fight or flight. And when we're removed from our fight or flight, okay, when it removes us from our fight or flight, guess what? We can now critically think. We can now apply clinical judgment. And those are the 2 skills that are necessary for passing your NCLEX exam. You can also tense up your shoulders and relax them. If you've ever had a day where you're really, really anxious, what happens is we start to hold our anxiety kind of in our shoulders. You might feel like, oh man, my shoulders are so sore. Just let go of that tension. And when you're going through your actual exam, take it one question at a time. Don't start to self-evaluate. Do the best you can on each question. And let me tell you, your best is good enough. There's not another option in that moment. So if you go in being intentional, doing the best you can on each question, you should have no regrets after that. But if you're constantly thinking of, oh no, I think I missed the last 2, it's building my anxiety. I don't know how many are coming next. I'm tallying. Oh, I've missed 12 already that I'm sure of. I'm failing this test, right? That's never helped anybody pass. I promise you that. It has led to failures though. And so we want to make sure that we're being thoughtful of our thoughts. The other thing that I like to use is the 3-2-1 rule. Sometimes the deep breathing doesn't work. Sometimes being intentional with my thoughts doesn't work. Sometimes releasing that tension and anxiety out doesn't work. And I am in my fight or flight and I cannot get out of it. So in that moment, what I have to follow is the 3-2-1 rule. So 3 things I see. I see, all my social medias up right now that I'm presenting on. I have some blue light glasses because my eyes hurt when I stare at a screen too long. And I've got a chapstick on my desk. So those are the 3 things that I see. What are 2 things I hear? I've got this back window open so I can hear just people outside. It's super nice here today. And my computer fan, it's so loud. It's kind of annoying. I don't know why it's so loud. And then what's one thing I can touch or smell? I can touch the desk that's in front of me. I've used that 3-2-1 rule. It regrounds me using my senses, and then I can move on with the test. Now, if after that you're like, Rachel, my anxiety is still through the roof, it's still not better, take a break. Get up from your exam and take a break. It is okay to do so. I always tell students to plan for 150 questions. Don't plan for 85. Because the second you get question 86, your anxiety is going to go through the roof if you plan for the minimum. So instead, I want you to plan for the max. There's some daily habits that can just generally help. Moving your body, exercise is great for the body physically, but also mentally. Journaling is another really awesome strategy you can use. I personally have never done meditation, but I have had students that it's helped them a lot. And then lastly, socializing. Anyone here a social butterfly? For me, it totally depends on the scenario. But for me, talking through my fears out loud. If I go through worst case scenario out loud, that helps me a lot. So sometimes with my team members, I'll be like, hey, here's worst case that I'm thinking of right now. What do you think? And they'll give me their feedback. And then I plan for sometimes that worst case. It's like, okay, let's keep working on it. Let's make sure that we improve this. And so sometimes I just have to verbalize it. And as soon as I verbalize it, I'm like, oh, that's not so bad. I can do this. I can handle this. And so sometimes socializing or just Having a night where you are focused on your friends, on your family, and not about the task can be really, really helpful. You do have to make sure that you're not pouring from an empty cup. You have to fill your cup too, and socializing is a part of that. Some general NCLEX strategies I have. You get 5 hours for the test. There's no set limit for the number of minutes you get per question, but I always recommend keep each question to 2 minutes or less. At 2 minutes, research shows that the answer is not going to come to you. Now, if you have this massive unfolding case study with all this information, it can take you longer than 2 minutes. That's fine. But you don't want to spend 10 minutes on an ABCD question, right? Because you have to be intentional and thoughtful of how you're using those 5 hours. My other advice is don't change your answer. When we start to get anxious, we're more often going to change our answer from A to B to C to D. We don't want to change our answer. We want to trust our gut and trust our instinct. And don't self-evaluate. Anyone guilty of this? Anyone guilty of self-evaluating from time to time? Maybe you go, ooh, I missed that one. Not going to get it right. It's a SATA. Oh, I hate SATA questions. Might as well count it wrong already, right? When we start to self-evaluate, when we start to guess if we're passing or failing, I never see anyone be accurate in this. And you know what it does? It fuels the self-doubt. And remember, we're deciding today, are we going to do things that fuel our self-doubt or fuel our self-confidence? And make sure you know what that question is asking you. So I'm curious to see from all that we talked about today, what's the one thing that stuck out to you? What's the one thing that you're like, I can relate to this? This is maybe something I want to try, something that impacted me. What was something that you took away from joining today? Yeah, don't count your correct and incorrect answers. I used to do that too. A lot of what I teach on is things I failed at and did wrong as a student. And then things that I help students overcome once I became an educator. Yeah, take breaks if needed, changing your answer. These are great things. Talking to yourself. That's awesome. Yeah, believing in yourself, relaxing. Because someone asked, hey, where does the recording go for this? The recording for this session stays in 2 places. It's going to be on our Facebook page. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. Amazing. You guys have some really, really great takeaways. And here is that webinar exclusive discount, 10% off. Use code ILOVEARCHER. It's going to save you 10%. Again, that Shore Pass package is the one that I highly recommend. Highly, highly recommend. But YouTube and Facebook is where you would find the recording for today. And I want to remind you that you don't have to know it all. And you heard me right here. The NCLEX is comprehensive. It is designed to test your readiness to begin practice as an entry-level nurse. It's vital to remember, though, it's not an assessment of your value as a person or as a nurse, as a professional. The test is designed with the expectation that you're going to have the knowledge of a basic nurse or a graduate level nurse in their first 6 months of practice. It's not that you have to be an encyclopedia with every single concept that could get asked about in nursing. And so really the reality of test anxiety, especially when it comes to the NCLEX, it often stems from the pressure that we put on ourselves. When we put this pressure on ourselves that we need to be perfect, that we need to do it all right all the time, this pressure can be overwhelming. It can cause a lot of stress. It can make it harder to recall information that you've spent years learning. Today, I want to ensure that we shifted that perspective. And I think together we hopefully did accomplish that. I want you to make sure that you start these measures now. Don't wait until test day. They need to start now. And when test anxiety strikes, I want you to pause. I want you to get out that toolkit and remind yourself that you are capable, you are worthy, and that you can do this because you are going to make an amazing nurse. And I know that. Why? Because you showed up today. Those that show up, that are consistent, those are the ones that are going to go on to pass. But you have to be intentional. You have to make those choices. And again, that Shore Pass package was our #1 recommended. There's the QR codes that you can scan if you're interested in one of those. But I want to know, are there any questions? You can drop your questions in the chats. And I do just want to say, as we wrap up today's session, I want to remind you of one crucial truth. Anxiety is not a reflection of your ability. It's a response to pressure. And pressure is something we can learn to manage. You've spent, again, years studying for this. This test does not define you, but managing your mindset can change your outcome. So make sure you go with that thought process. And some of you are saying, hey, this made me emotional. This was a hard topic to talk about. It is hard. And at Archer, I don't want to go around the hard topics and just talk about the easy stuff. We need to talk about the hard stuff, because when we can unlock overcoming things like test anxiety, that's where I see students who never thought it was possible for them pass. I've worked with students who have tested over 20 times on their NCLEX and been successful. I've worked with students who have graduated over 27 years prior, those that have come from countries all across the globe. Those are the people that sometimes have a little extra pressures. They have extra barriers, but you are capable. This can be emotional. It's okay to feel those emotions, but let that drive you and refuel your why so that you can go be successful as we move forward. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Archer Review is here for you across the lifespan. We want to support you in your journey to NCLEX success, to nursing success, whatever that journey might look like, whether that's starting at pre-nursing with T's and HESI, all the way through nurse practitioner. I specialize really in our nursing school and NCLEX divisions, but we've got an amazing team throughout. Reach out to us if there's anything I didn't answer today. It was just me, so there's a chance I missed several questions. You can email us at nclextutors@archerreview.com. We are here for you if you have a question, if you don't know which package is right for you. SurePass is the main one I recommend. You get one seat at the 3-day live review with SurePass for those that ask. But again, thanks for being here, and I cannot wait to hear when you reach that pass. Reach out, let us know when you get there, and good luck to each and every one of you. Thanks for being a part of the Archer Review community. Bye, everybody.